Hey, this is Harlan Gergert with CEO Solutions, President and Founder, and we're here with our CEO behavior not to do number 2, and that is not being a seagull or being a seagull, whichever way you want to look at it. Now, we use the idea of the seagull because we see this quite often, and I've had lots of conversations with especially high-powered people or people that really are driven very hard, and they say, look, the reason that your company is struggling and you're struggling is you're a big seagull. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's look at what a seagull's behavior is. Seagulls are birds, big white birds. They fly around. They usually poach off of whatever they can find. They're somewhat scavengers. They come in. They tend to make a lot of noise. They tend to flap around. They tend to chase everybody else away. Then they kind of poop all over the place, and then they fly away, and they go do the same thing someplace else. Now, here's what we see, and I'm thinking of several people. I remember one gentleman that he was really, really good at selling. He was a great salesperson. That's where he really needed to be. He was great at working with people. Absolutely horrible at operations, absolutely horrible at running his business, and he was actually running it into the ground. And I remember it having a conversation with him, and I says, look, you're one of the biggest seagulls I've ever met. And it was just really quiet, happened to be over the phone. He was driving. I was just wondering if he had crashed or not. And anyway, he says, what the heck do you mean? And I says, well, look at it this way. You come flying in, you're on the road, you come flying in, and you don't know what's going on. You assume that you're the boss. And because you're the boss and because you own the company, everybody's going to do exactly what you want. Now, seagulls usually have the ability to really endear people to them. So I really like the guy, but that's a good indication that there might be some seagull action going on. So they come in and they say, well, why isn't this done? What's this done? Here, I want you to do this. And they change the plan. They change what it is. Their people are trying to perform. Their people want to perform. Their people are working diligently at what the last directive was. And now that the seagull comes flying back in, changes the directive, changes this over here, says go do this instead, changes the priorities that these people have been working on, makes a lot of noise, disrupts a lot of stuff, gets about 10 more projects started, and moves all the other projects off the table for them, says you got to do this, makes a lot of noise, complains about this, says this is great, says attaboy to this person, and then turns around and gives them and disrupts their entire process, so they got to start over. Makes a big mess, leaves a lot of garbage around, leaves people extremely frustrated, very annoyed, very angry sometimes that now they got to start over literally. They were just about done and now they've been disrupted again. And so the seagull comes in, makes the noise, flaps their wings all over the place, blows everything off the desk, squawks, makes that noise, poops all over everything, and then flies away and thinks they're an eagle when they're really not. Now, if any of this kind of behavior is going on, or if you look back at your own behaviors and you say, yeah, that might be what I'm doing. Well, I'll tell you right now, be aware of it and stop it, because being a seagull is one of the most disruptive things that you can do to a business. I guarantee you, your people may say they're loyal to you, but they don't want to see you. They cringe every time you walk into the door. They're not efficient. They're not effective because everything is constantly being put in turmoil, which doesn't allow them to be productive. Waste a lot of time. You're wondering why your expenses are too high, your production is too low, why there's so many errors and mistakes. Guess what? The seagull is getting in the way of their people. So if you're a seagull and you're seeing this kind of behavior or seeing these kind of outcomes from your people, look at the mirror and say, am I the seagull? Am I flying in and trying to make anything? And by the way, the seagull is extremely frustrated because they can't figure out, why don't my people perform? Why can't they just get the job done? And if you're asking yourself that question, look in the mirror and say, am I a big white bird, flappy wings, and leave a mess? If you are, then you're a seagull. And that's an area that takes a lot of coaching to help. But getting the right people in place, getting the right things done can make a big difference. Just to let you know, the seagull that I mentioned at the beginning of this got the right person in place, and in a matter of 5 years, they paid off millions of dollars to investors and put $1 million in the bank because that person helped the Seagull be an eagle. And that takes a lot of work and effort, but he was open-minded enough to allow it to happen. So the question is, are you open-minded enough to make the changes needed to become truly the eagle and not be the Seagull?